Hi everyone, my name is Phyllis and I'm the owner of Moody Quilting Fabrics, and today is another day, another share, and I am going to share with you the new tall tree that I've been doing these little paper piecing houses, and I have designed more tall trees. I have little houses, little trees, tall houses, and tall trees. And today we're doing the second tall tree, and I'm going to show it to you here. This is the pattern that you would download. I'm going to put the link down below, and make sure that this stitches prints out as 1 inch, and then the pattern will be the correct, as long as this is scaled 1 inch by 1 inch. Okay, and this is the tree all done up, very nicely done, and we're going to show you what to do. Now, those of you who have been following, you guys already know, but those of you who are new, I'm going to go through the process of how it is done. So I'm going to switch to the above camera so you can see it, and I'm going to put myself up in the little corner there. Now, this is the pattern. It's a freezer paper, and I just printed out on my inkjet printer. And the first thing you're going to do is you want to fold on all the folding lines. Now, I'm going to tell those of you who know, you know, those of you who don't, I do not sew through the paper. So now you know. So you need to fold both ways on all the papers. Now, I did fold this earlier, so I have them all folded. And you just want to make sure that you have them folded both ways, and you'll see why in a minute. All right, so the first thing you're going to do, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go through your scraps, because this is one of those scrappy quilts, and you're going to just pull things that give you what you want. Now, I'm using this peachy color, for a light peachy color, as a background, and there's my tree. So I need two long ones, okay, 2 long ones, and then 2 short ones for either side. You need a tree one, and then you need something for the trunk. Now, I start in the center and then do these 2 sides. You can start here and do this way, or you can start here and go this way, but I just like to start in the center. So you need to get these done before you can put this one on, and you need this one on before you can do those. So let's get to it, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to iron, making sure I'm past my sewing line and past the seam allowance line. And I always give myself more than I need. It's just the way I am. I also like to use these little tiny irons, and the reason why is because the big iron is very big and bulky, and this is freezer paper, so it will stick to your iron, you know, so you really want to use something that you can work with. Now, I'm just going to get rid of that pattern, and I'm going to move this into place. The next thing, once you've ironed it, you need to trim whichever side you're going to start with. And I'm going to start with this side, and you're going to trim with a 1/4 inch ruler. And this ruler has a little ledge, and you're going to pop that up against, see how it doesn't move? You're going to pop that up against the ledge, the ledge of the ruler up against the paper, the fold of the paper, and you're going to cut off your 1/4 inch. And now you have a 1/4 inch from the paper to the edge of the fabric. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take this background fabric, and you're just going to line it up as best you can, making sure you're past your seam allowance, like this seam allowance line, and also past the the other line for the tree. You really want to make sure that you're past that. Now we're going to switch over to the sewing machine camera, and I'm going to sew. Now, I have threaded the machine with my favorite thread, and I have also put on my little foot that has a little arrow in the front, so I know where my needle is. And you're going to follow with the arrow along the paper. Now, I don't know if you can see that. So you're going to just take, let me just pull the, So you're just going to take and put the arrow right beside the paper. Can you see that? Right beside the paper. And you're just going to sew along there, okay? The arrow is your guide. So you don't, because you don't want to sew on the paper. Okay, so now let me just get this rethread. I'm doing it one-handed. Oh, I'm so impressed. All right, so we're just going to line up the arrow. Hold your threads so they don't get pulled under and make a bird's nest. And then we're just going to sew along here. I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way so you can see. I'm really sorry about this camera. It's actually my phone for the, I use my phone camera for the sewing machine camera. And we're in the process of looking for an actual camcorder. Now, I'm just going to go and switch over to the above camera. So yeah, we're in the process of trying to look for a new camera. All right. So now we've sewn along this line. We did not sew through the paper. You have to be careful. Make sure that you do not have anything shift when you do this. So you're going to open this up. You're going to pull this back. You're going to gently, don't push, but gently finger press. And then you can get it ironed on. There we go. So now we're going to pull back this side. And like I said, I had way more fabric than I physically needed, but ow, that was my ruler. Oh my God, it's going to be one of those days. So yes, I have way more than I need, but I'd rather have, like, this is scrap. I've got it coming out of my yin yang. You know, like, you can't take it with you. So you might as well use up as much as you can before you leave the world. Okay, so again, you're going to line up your fabrics and you're just going to continue the process. Let me go over to the camera for the sewing machine and sew this one. And there we go. That one's done. Okay, now it's starting to lift a little bit. See, it's starting to lift here, so I don't want that complete, like I have to really hold on to this. I'm just going to move this out of the way. And I'm just trying to make sure, I'm going to take these little scissors and get rid of this excess thread. We trim as we go and clean up as we go. And now I'm just going to gently finger press. I'm holding everything in place. I don't want anything to move on me. Sometimes you just don't get it ironed down hard enough, and then they lift off. So, okay, so let's get to the next part. Now we're going to put this tree in, and we are going to pull this back. We're going to use the 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're going to trim that off. And now we're going to take this tree, the fabric for the tree, and we're just going to center it past, make sure you go past these lines, these lines here and here, and make sure that it's past, because this is your cutting line. That's your sewing line. That's from here to here is your 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you have to add that in. So there we are. We've got that done. I'm going to move over to the other camera again, and we're going to continue. Oh, my foot has slid. So we're just going to sew. Now, I've been doing this for a while, and I'm sewing fairly quickly along here. You can go a lot slower if that's making it easier for you. All right. Or you can go a little faster. whatever is most comfortable. Just remember, we do not want to sew through this paper. So we're going to pull this back. We're going to flip it. I'm going to get rid of this excess thread. I don't want that thread there. Makes a mess. And then we're going to pull this back. And we're going to iron it down. Way more than I need, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. All right. So I'm actually going to cut some of this off. I don't need that. So I'm actually just going to trim off a little bit. Just trim it down a little bit. All right, so now we're going to put one of these on. Now this gets tricky because it's going to come all the way down here. So you need to make sure that you have fabric coming out past here, but also out this way. You don't want to trim off. You end up trimming off some of this, but then you got to add fabric to it. Okay, does that make sense? And I'll show you what I mean. See how it's going to come past here? It's going to come past here. So you got to make sure that you have fabric from this that comes out far enough. So we're just going to trim off. There we go. Now, if you look here, that's the seam allowance there, right there. So we're going to make sure that this fabric comes just past this point. And then I think we should be okay. But we also have to make sure that we have enough going up. And I know that I've cut these a little tighter because I wanted to show you. So we are not quite past. Okay, I think that's good. We have a little bit of buffer here. So I'm past, up here I'm past this paper, but we need to be past there. So I could probably slink a little closer and give more room down here. So that's what I think I'll do. And I'm just going to double check. Yes, I'm still okay. So now we're just going to take this, and we're going to go over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew along here. And then we just have one more piece, and then we can iron and take off. So I'm just going to line my arrow along the edge of the paper. Now I'm not starting way at the bottom because we don't have to. Oopsie daisy. All right. I'm just going to keep sewing. There we are. So now we're going to trim off the excess thread because we don't need that. And I'm just going to move this out of the way. Oops, close that. And I'm just going to make sure that we are. So I'm really, really pleased. We're way past, so we're going to be fine. And we're just going to iron this. Let me get back into the frame, and we're just going to iron this. So right now it looks wonky, but oh, it didn't stick. I find that these irons, they get very hot, but ironing on the paper side really makes everything stick way better. All right, so we know that we're past. We're way past. We've got fabric there. We're going to be a happy camper. We got fabric up here past the cutting line. And now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side. So I'm just going to bring this in, and we're just going to continue cutting. this side, and this is our last piece for this tree. Now, again, we need to get past this point. Can you see that? We need to get past that point with the fabric. So we'll be in the seam allowance. Okay, so what I mean is this, we want this outside, this edge here, this corner, outside past the seam allowance going across here. So we want to make sure that it's within the seam allowance, not out where it's going to show. Okay, so it's really important that you shimmy and make sure that you know where you're going to be, where you need to place this fabric. So I need to place it. Okay, so it is going past that point there, and it's going past, just past that point. So, and that's past the outer edge of the seam allowance. Oh, this is a long piece. Let me double check to make sure. Yeah, it looks good. It looks good. It looks. The other reason why I like doing it this way is because when this is folded back, okay, just bear with me. We have the fabrics right sides together. So this is lying folded back over top of the fabric that you're sewing on. So you can actually double check yourself to make sure that every part of that shape is going to be covered with the fabric. It really makes it so much easier. All right, so let's go over to the sewing machine and let's get this last line sewn. Let me just get my threads. And I'm just going to move this because I'm actually bumping into it. It's going to fall over if I'm not careful. All right. Okay, this is the last one. I will put the links down below for this pattern and for the other patterns that I'm going to show you what I'm doing with them, and some of the other patterns I'll show you. But they're all free on my website, and you can download them. They're PDF downloads, so they're easy. And like I said, they're all free. So let me just switch back over. And here we are. This is our last piece. So I'm just going to move this out of the way for now. And I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to flip it. And I'm going to pull this back. And see, every point is covered. We're good to go. So no mistakes. That was the other thing I like about this method, is that I have less ripping out because I can see that the fabric is big enough to cover the space that I need it to cover of the pattern. And then, all right, so this is what it looks like before we trim it down. I'm just going to use my 1/4 inch. So I'm putting, there's a little ridge here. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little ridge. I'm actually putting that ridge edge on this inner line, and that gives me my 1/4 inch. And I'm just making sure. There we go. There we go. I'm going to come back on this side and do this side. And you're going to see how easy it is to remove. I'm just making sure that I'm giving myself my 1/4 inch. Then we're going to do these two sides. Oh, I didn't think. There we go. Better. And we're going to do this side. There's quite a bit of bulk right in there, and that's why it's hard to cut with the... Now, if you're careful with your ironing on these freezer paper pieces, you probably can use the pattern several times before you So see how this has come down. There's our, this is going to be our seam. So this is our 1/4 inch line from there to there. Okay. So this is going to, this point down here is well within the 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we're not going to have a problem there either. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm liking this tree. I'm liking this tree. All right. So the easy part is you just peel off. Let me see. Yeah, you just peel. Watch. And you can use this pattern again. I get, if you're careful, you can get 4 uses, 3 to 4 uses if you're super careful. If you are not, and you still want to use the same just use a glue, water-soluble glue stick to hold the fabric down, but don't put a lot. It's just a couple of dabs here and there just to hold it down. That's what my girlfriend is doing with one of her projects. So yeah, but I like, I have freezer paper galore, so I try to get at least four uses out of one paper, and then and if you're careful, you could get a little more, but I get about 4 uses. Now I want to show you some of the other houses. Okay, so here I have a house with a chimney, a house without, but I have a bar here. This one does not have a bar at all. Then there's some with double windows. These are the tiny ones. Okay. And I think that's all I have right now in the houses. And then I have some trees, and I have this small tree. There's 4 small trees and 5 little houses, I think. I'm not sure. So I have this little tree, and I have this little tree and this little tree, but I also have, this is sewn together, this little tree. So, and then I have this tall house. I have this tall tree. Okay. And now we have this tall tree. And I have this tall house, that tall house, and that tall house. Let me just get this into frame so you can see. So I have quite a few. Now, let me just clean this up, and I'm going to show you what I have sewn together so far with these blocks. So this is what I've sewn together. This is two tiny houses. So if you take this tiny house and that tiny house, sew them together, then the tall tree or a tall house will fit. They all go together and they all work together, and you can make a big scrappy quilt if you want. I'm thinking that I might like to do something more in like 60 by 60. I have a beautiful wall with a beautiful decorative curtain rod that I put sleeves on those quilts that I want to hang there. It's a big wall, 13 feet high ceilings. So I'm thinking that I would really like to do something with this. So like I said, you can have two tiny houses, a house. See, this is a tall tree. This is a tall tree, a tall house. These are 2 tiny houses. This is 2 tiny houses. And this one here is a tree and a house. Now, if you look at this one, this got wonky. And the reason why it got wonky is because it lifted off the freezer paper. So when I went to put on the next piece, it was a little shifted. So you, like I said, when you go, see, this is nice and straight and this one's wonky. This house is falling down. Okay, let's go with that story. So just be careful when you work with the freezer paper. Just make sure that the fabric is stuck to it. And when you pull it out of the machine, hold the pieces so you're not getting them to move away from the seam allowance, this fold here, okay? So that's it for today, and I hope you enjoy it. I will put the link down below for all the tall trees, all the tall houses, all the little houses and the little trees. And they're free. You can go to my website, madmoodyquiltingfabrics.com, and get your free patterns and download them yourself. They're PDF and they're just emailed to you, and you can start working on your little houses and tall trees and tall houses and little trees. So we'll see you next time. Happy quilting. Bye-bye.